From this point forward, this is going to be the end of part one. We're going to do part two. I want to get into the chat. We're going to talk about Georgia from a perspective of the playoff. Is Georgia built for the playoff in the modern era? That's something that I think many people probably question, myself included. And we'll come back to that in a moment. I want to jump into the chat. I got a whole bunch of stuff in here too. What do we got here today? Salty, how you doing, my friend? Happy Tuesday to you. Mike Bobo is in the midst of his second stint as Georgia's OC. How often does a coach serve two separate stints as coordinator at the same school? And is it more common under the same head coach? Same head coach, no, because coaches get fired all the time. Coaches come back and forth. Denbrock's at Notre Dame for his third stint. That's one example. I don't know how that's going to work out in terms of totality. I don't follow it that close. But a lot of guys like to come back because they move up the ladder. You know, they're a position coach, then they're a coordinator. So it happens a little bit, just usually not under the same head coach. Salty, Georgia had very good offensive success with Brock Bowers at tight end. Does Georgia have an elite tight end on the roster? They got a few that are really good. I think the most talented by a million miles is Elias Williams. He's 6'7", like 230 or something like that. He's really freaky. He's kind of built like a basketball player. Salty, for a quarterback who is reluctant, whether it's himself or the coaches, to throw over the middle, is a tight end a more preferable target, bigger, weight releasing, than a wide receiver? You'd have to ask Gunner Stockton that as it relates to UGA. But, I mean, at least Elias is 6'7". That helps. But it depends on the player. Certain receivers, even if they're not as talented in the eyes of fans, they have a certain rapport with a quarterback. Could be a tight end, could be a running back too. And they'll give them more chances. I've had some conversations in private with high school quarterbacks about that. Not so much college, but they just trust certain players. That tells me a lot about what's going to happen. With exceptional talent in the trenches, does Georgia have an elite running back who can take pressure to move the ball off of Stockton? They've got a ton. Again, Dowdell's their third running back. He would start at some SEC schools. He's at minimum a guy that would be number two at probably 2/3. He's third team for Georgia. Their first two running backs, I think, are NFL guys. They're like Nate Frazier, I think, will start in the NFL. Salty Peanuts, what are some of the most important recruiting battles in which Georgia is involved? I wrote down some of these. I'm glad. This is a great question from Salty right here. By the way, shout out to you on that. KJ Green from Stevenson High School. He's an edge rusher. Every team in the country is recruiting him. Clemson, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Tennessee, Georgia, you name it. That's an important one. He's, local kid. I saw him at Rivals 5-star last year. Seen him at, different events, Under Armour, yada, yada. He's really good. Joshua Sam Appel, he's a mountain of a man. He's the thinner version of a certain offensive tackle I profiled just a little bit ago named Juan Gaston at Georgia. He's 6'8", 320, something like that. He's a kid that Miami might get him. He might end up at Miami. We'll see. Adryan Cole, his teammate, a kid that I know well. UGA, Ohio State, Ole Miss, I think are the most likely. Safety, another kid that is just really, really good. He's like, you look at him, Adrian 6'2", 6'3", 190 pounds. He can cover. He's smart. He's in position. He's a national recruit for a reason. I mean, like Ohio State doesn't come down south just for the fun of it. Kennedy Jackson, he's from Lithonia. That's an offensive tackle. Like they always try to get these tackles. He's a kid that could go to a number of schools. Georgia's in on him. Seth Tillman, defensive tackle out of South Point High School. There was a certain defensive end about 15, 18 years ago coming out of high school that was supposed to be the second coming. Ended up being the first pick in the draft. Name that player. South Point is in Rock Hill, South Carolina. Shout out Jeff Burris, who played at Rock Hill High School there. They got a shot at him. He's one of the better D tackles in the country. And then Isaac McNeil out of Viger High School down in Mobile. He's an edge rusher. Lineman, and then like Cole's a different kind of guy. In my opinion, I've gotten to know him because he plays with the group that I'm with. And like Coastline Stars, we're loaded, but he's one of the first guys, if you ask me, like, okay, which one of these guys is most likely to be successful? Adrian's floor is so high because of his IQ. He'd have to be one of my top 5 guys on the roster. And we're full of players that have 30-plus offers. He fits the mark off the field, socially. Who do you trust? Length, height, all that. So again, linemen for Georgia, I know they're going to get skill kids there. I'm not worried about Kirby getting receivers, DBs, running backs. That's low hanging fruit. In any of Georgia, Alabama, or Florida, those schools should always get that. It's the lineman. Does he win the lineman battles? Because if he does, Georgia's just going to continue this trend. Right now, we're doing really well with recruiting. They should have a top 5 class. That's the safest way to look at it. Salty, is Georgia one and done again in the playoffs with Kirby's face increasing pressure to make changes? I don't think they're one and done, but at the same time, it depends. Here's the tough part of your question, and you can't predict this, nor can I. Does Georgia get a bye? I mean, if they lose to Ole Miss and Bama, they're probably not in the SEC title game. They may not get a bye, but they'd probably be at home in round 1. And then round 2, they might be playing a team. Maybe it's Bama, maybe it's Ole Miss, maybe it's Notre Dame, maybe it's Ohio State, but it'd be a neutral site. I think they'll probably make it to second round regardless. To that end, I think that they're a team that if they're going to win, I'll just go ahead and throw this out, they have to do a better job, a much better job of hitting plays down the field in the passing game. It must be willing in practice. It must take time out of just smashing each other. It must take time out of some of the run game stuff. You need Gunner working on timing and throwing the ball down the field in pads, in scrimmage situations constantly. Because they can run. Like, if they can't run the ball just naturally this year with that talent, then it's just not going to happen. So that is definitely my point on that. Tommy Guns, what's up, Tommy? How you doing, sir? Katie, Bobo bashers are idiots. The reason Georgia has a good quarterback play year after year is Bobo. Bobo realizes what his quarterbacks can't do. Yeah, I think that's pretty true, but you still got to go by what the head coach says. I know some people that go to Georgia practices that have a lot of intel there. Not me personally. I don't even try. That is not their bag. I'm not saying they never do it, but I think they could do better. Katie, according to JD Piquel on 3, Georgia has the second best roster in the country behind Ohio State. You could argue that. Just depends on how you want to rank it in terms of position. Like, the reason I have Georgia, I got them 5th on mine. I like Gunner, but I'm not taking him over Darian Mensah. I'm not taking him over Julian Sand. I'm not taking him over CJ Carr. You know what I mean? There's still a handful of guys that I like better. If you take the quarterback out of the equation, if you wanted, I'd have no problem you ranking him number 1. But nonetheless, they're definitely really high up there. Let's not forget that Bobo coached Matt Stafford and Aaron Murray. It's true. It is true. What's up, Raymond? I hope all is well. Max Morgan, can I ask a question about Miami? Yeah, you can fire away, man. You can ask about any school. I don't care. Fire away. Using the portal sparingly, Georgia's composite recruiting ranking right now is 8th. I wonder, is that for just this year? Talking about this year's class, Katie, or are you talking about the composite for like a 4-year period? Katie, at Georgia, you will be developed and coached up. Name another head coach in college football that has 8 3-star recruits drafted in the first round of the National Football League draft. I don't keep up with it like that, but that is an incredible number. That's insane. Tommy Guns, Max, you can ask about whatever you want to, 100%. Wait, I mean, no. Questions about Miami. No, haha, funny. Yeah, you can ask about Miami, man. I don't really care. Who could they lose to? Fred G. Rebs 223. Are you talking about? I'm not sure which guy you're referring to there, Fred. You talking about the Rebels? I haven't got their schedule up in front of me, but I know they got to play Oklahoma on the road. They got Georgia. They got LSU, Ole Miss's schedule is harder than Georgia's. Tommy Guns, Brian, is that tackle you were talking about able to get upfield on run and screen plays effectively? Juan is the guy. He can move like a guy that weighs 300 pounds, and he's still in the 350 range, and he's 6'8". If he ends up playing left tackle next season, he might be the first pick in the draft when he comes out. You can't teach Juan's gifts. Tommy Guns, UGA not taking part in Game 11 FCS week. They played both their crappy games right out of the gate. So I don't know why that is. Tommy Guns, although South Carolina is a much better program, they're bad right now, man. They are bad. Georgia, I don't know who Fred's talking about there, but I don't think they are built for the playoffs, but I do buy stock that they will be 10-2. Oklahoma and Ole Miss would be those two losses. Okay, it's about Georgia. They play Alabama on the road, so Fred's calling it out right now. Georgia's beating Alabama, says Fred. That could be. That could be. It wouldn't surprise me. Not sure who Alabama's quarterback's going to be. I'm guessing Austin Mack, but that's who I've called all along. But Georgia and Alabama, that'll be a fun game. I know I will be watching. Katie, how different will a Kiffinless game day be at Ole Miss? That's a great question. There won't be as many memes. There won't be as many comments from the head coach at Ole Miss prior to kickoff. Fewer posts about Dawgs that are his own. Otherwise, I don't know. Like, we don't know what to expect. The head coach there is first-time head coach. Really don't know what they're going to do. Fred, what three teams contend for the SEC title? My pick would be Texas, Ole Miss, and a toss-up between Georgia and Oklahoma. I'm going to say Georgia's in the SEC title because their schedule is easier than either Texas or Ole Miss is the other one. It could be Oklahoma. The Ole Miss-Oklahoma game, they go back to Norman again this year. You could argue is the most important game in the Southeastern Conference this year. The timing of the game, two teams on that cusp. It's really important for Oklahoma. In particular, it's a home game. A lot of stuff there momentum-wise. The head coach at Ole Miss is a first-year head coach in terms of like full season. Obviously, coached the end of last year. All of those things combined make that game very unique. Texas plays a brutal schedule. They've got Ohio State week 2, so they're going to beat up some there before they even play their SEC slate. There are a lot of different ways to look at this, but the SEC at the top this year will be heavier. A lot of quarterbacks are returning. That will make the league better. Max Morgan, do you think Miami is going to flip Jaquan Snell from Texas A&M? That kid is a thumper. He's a kid out of Dallas. He's a safety. If that's the kid I'm thinking of, I haven't heard anything about that. I haven't spoke to Gabby lately or anything, but it wouldn't surprise me. Miami might be the best program at flipping players in the country. I need to look into that. I haven't honestly taken a look. Fred, do you believe that it's very good to have a first round bye? Depends on your situation as a team. You could argue that it's not that big a deal, but it depends on when your last bye was and how healthy are you. Every team, it's a little different. I don't think there's one consensus answer. It's varied per team. Fred, not very good, I meant. No problem, man. This year. Okay. Thank you, Katie. Georgia. Got you. Those are a lot of great questions today. I don't know what the deal is with such a varied response. Here's a question for all the people in the chat. If you took Kirby Smart out of the equation, I know everybody would probably answer that, and you could only take one coach in the SEC for a big game, I don't care what roster, who would you want as your head coach in an SEC game if Kirby Smart is not available? I've asked myself that a few times, and I've struggled with it. I don't have a consensus answer. Part of that would depend on your quarterback, but if you want, you can say, if you pick a certain coach, you have that offense or that offensive style, whatever. But that's a difficult one. I think Kirby's the easy answer. Again, that's not super difficult, but for the SEC specifically, name a coach that you would rather have if you take Kirby out for a big game and why. If I had to guess, Kiffin comes to mind, but like his record in big games has never been great, but now he's at a school that has more talent. You could go that way. Tennessee's head coach. You could argue A&M. I mean, year 2, they won 11 games in the regular season. There are different ways you could go with this. I mean, Drinkwitz is a guy that wins more with less. If you gave him a better roster, how would he do? A lot of ways to attack that one. As far as the SEC and trends, this is a little segment I want to do before we wrap up here. the biggest thing that I think people need to realize is while the SEC is not quite as deep, they are adjusting to the portal. There's been a little uptick based on the January portal. And reminder, barring something unforeseen, there isn't going to be a shadow portal per se because of the new rules from the NCAA. We'll see where that goes. Go look it up. I'll do that pod again probably about a month after everything is settled down. We'll see if it is or isn't happening. But right now, the SEC is top heavier than it was last year. Why? Gunner Stockton, returning quarterback. Trinidad Chambliss, returning quarterback. LSU doesn't have a returner, so they go get Sam Leavitt. Alabama, they lost a really talented quarterback in Ty Simpson, but they still have Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. Don't feel bad for the Crimson Tide. You shouldn't. Auburn brings their quarterback over with Alex Golish from USF. Florida, I think it's going to be Aaron Philo. They bring down the coordinator from Georgia Tech, Buster Faulkner. It's good. He brings Philo with it. There are a lot of different teams that should be in a pretty good spot there. And we're also seeing them, even Kentucky. I never thought I'd say this. Kentucky went out and got some linemen. They got Minchie from Notre Dame. Maybe he's pretty good. We don't know for sure, but this is going to be his 4th year in college football, and he's been around Notre Dame football the last 3 years. He should be. I would think so. So now we're in a scenario where that's just your baseline, and you haven't even got into Ole Miss's presumed starter last year is now at Missouri. There are so many good quarterbacks in the league. It can go a lot of different directions. And on top of it, the portal again. More teams are being smart about getting players in the trenches. Amaris goes from Auburn to Georgia. Like Georgia needed another D lineman. That's insane. And then you have other teams like LSU goes out and gets the best offensive tackle, in my opinion, in the portal, and who I would have ranked number 1 overall, coming from Colorado down. Jordan Seaton, I thought was literally the best player in the portal. I'd taken him over anybody. Left tackles are hard to find. Then you look at the Texas Longhorns. They go get Hollywood Smothers. They get Cam Coleman. A&M adds a few pieces here and there, and they've continued to recruit well in the trenches. This will be a very unique year. It's 3 years in a row the SEC has not made the national title game. If they don't make it this year, with all the players they have, and I didn't even talk like Lenore Sellers, if things work out, maybe South Carolina could be the flying the ointment in the league too. Who knows? This is the deepest it's been, and again, much top heavier than it's been in a while. You could name 5 teams easily that could compete for the title, and I wouldn't be surprised. LSU, Texas, Oklahoma, Georgia, those are all easy. Oh, yeah, by the way, Trinidad's back at Ole Miss. Oh, yeah, they still have Marcel Reed at Texas. Like, it's pretty deep. Florida, Tennessee, some of these teams, they can still upset you. Missouri's got the best running back in the country. It is a loaded group. So I don't know what it's going to be, but it's a really interesting group overall. What do you got here? Georgia. Anybody have any answers on my question? What head coach you would take? That's the one I'm most curious about for any of you in the chat. But I'm going to give Kiffin a chance here. I'm going to give Kiffin a chance. I think he's a pretty interesting guy if I was going to pick one, because now he's got a real roster. Max Morgan, watch the interview with Jaquan on Kane's Insight when you get a chance. Thank you. Wouldn't be surprising. Tommy Guns, Notre Dame versus Georgia, home and away and neutral site. Who wins? How many games in this fictional 26 series? I think Notre Dame wins 2 out of 3. I think they're slightly better, home and a neutral. Max Morgan, I'd love to land that kid and have 2 6'3", 200-pound safeties with him and J.J. Dunnigan. The Dunnigan kid's really good. I saw him at Under Armour too, and I'm like, who the hell is this guy? He's from Kansas. Then I found out his dad played at K-State, so that was part of it, but still. Tommy Guns, Elko, that's who you think? I don't have any problem with that. Katie, Kirby's team has his attitude. Yes, they do. That's fact. That is fact. Fred G. Rebs, I wouldn't have Kiffin. He loses big games. Watch that for 6 years of his tenure. It's a repetitive thing. How often did he have the more talented roster, though? He never had more talent than Bama, Georgia, LSU, stuff like that. He won a few of those games, but it was pretty bad. Now he'll have even more talent long term. I'll be interested to see what he does. Fred, not being salty, just asking a question. If LSU doesn't make the playoffs, is that a failure of a season? Yes, 100%. Elko says DJ7 MPH. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with taking Elko if Kirby's off the list. Agree on 2 out of 3, says Raymond. That would be a good series, Notre Dame and Georgia. Oh, I'd take Pete because he showed he can handle the wheel while the head coach leaves. Fair. Kiffin is the best in-game adjuster. He's not much fun to deal with as a coordinator, that's for sure. True, says Fred. Kiffin is really good at in-game stuff. I absolutely, I think he plans for some of that a little better, a little broader. If this doesn't work, I have to have plan B. And if that doesn't work, I have plan C. He does a pretty good job of that play calling, formation, shifts, motions, and getting his players to buy into it and understanding it. It's not any one part of that. It's all of it. So again, for today, just as a reminder, if you take nothing else from this, I'm going to kind of just close with this. It is not just Mike Bobo that is the issue here. I don't think he's the primary issue either. Georgia's passing game is more about Kirby, how they practice, especially the deep game. They just don't throw the ball well down the middle of the field. It's like the one area that they're just really bad, like in everything. They're really bad at it. 30% passing for a guy that was in his 4th year in the program, that's what they did deep. I think they need to change that because they got a lot of young players. Watch out for Elias Williams. Definitely look out for my guy Juan Gaston at right tackle. He is a dude. And finally, if not this year, when? Because Georgia has so many players back. They should be a team that can make the Final Four at minimum. From there, it's kind of who's healthy more than anything else. You are welcome, Mr. Raymond Horton. Fred, do you think Kiffin is better coordinator than head coach? I mean, he would be better at it. I don't think he likes dealing with media and all that. He's kind of an introvert in his own way. But we're about to find out because it's different at LSU because the expectations are different. DJ7, but Kiffin had better talent than a couple of the teams he lost to. The Kentucky game is the one on Kiffin. I have no idea. He failed on that one immensely. Kentucky was terrible. They won one game. They won at Ole Miss. How is that possible? It is mind-blowing, but that's exactly what happened. So to that end, appreciate everybody stopping in and checking out the Portal Podcast. As always, we do live shows at noon each day. Appreciate the folks that come in, invite your friends. We were talking Georgia today. I'm going to be at an event this weekend. I'll be leaving Friday, so we won't have a show on Friday at noon, but Wednesday, Thursday will be the same. Going to find out some recruiting information. It's Battle Nationals up in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm really looking forward to that. It should be a blast. And make sure that you understand that when I come back, we're going to have a lot more recruiting stuff. We're going to really shift into recruiting next week. I'm going to ask some kids. This is a question I want to ask. Who's the best head coach recruiter? I'm going to give the kids like a list. Who would you put? I'm going to ask them to rank stuff. I'm going to do all kinds of stuff. We'll talk about that Monday through Wednesday next week. A little bit of here and there, maybe some stories, maybe some fun stories that you may not like, depending on which team you do or do not root for. We'll have some fun with all that stuff. But, and I appreciate everybody stopping in. DJ, thank you. I'm glad you stopped in again today. Appreciate it, brother. Exactly. The Kentucky game was miserable. That was just hard to watch in general. That game was awful. Any update on Ty Keys? He changes his list constantly. I haven't heard anything. Florida State, Miami, Ole Miss, etc. I think that'll come down to the end. It just depends on who you talk to. That's going to be a very, very long recruitment. Thank you once again for checking out the Portal Podcast. We are here every day and just talking football, talking recruiting, talking transfer portal, NIL. Make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe. If you're on Apple, please give us a 5-star review. Check out the Everydayer Club. This has been the Portal Podcast.